any further ado, pleasure to welcome here Kreshnik Bekteshi, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Deva. First of all, I would like to use the opportunity to show my gratitude to the organizers of this event, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which have done a great job in bringing all the stakeholders here in order to discuss the opportunities we have after signing two huge agreements like the Ohrid Framework Agreement, but also the PRESPA agreement, which has opened a huge perspective for North Macedonia, but not only. It has opened a perspective for the region overall as well. As a Ministry of Economy, especially in the last 3 years, we have done quite a good job together with other institutions, especially with the Ministry of Finance of our country and the Cabinet of the Deputy Prime Minister, in order to make a better business climate when it comes to foreign investors, but not only, also to our domestic investors in order to increase their competitiveness, but also to help indirectly increase their productivity. So overall, for us to create more jobs, but also to give an input regarding the economic growth of our country, so that we have achieved in attracting those investments, but we think we have to go to another level, not only to work and promote the countries, especially within the Western Balkans, as one country, to multinationals and potential investors, but as a region overall. Therefore, we are chairing this year with CEFTA as North Macedonia, and we have given these proposals within the framework of the CEFTA Secretariat, so that we cut all the barriers, the tariff and non-tariff barriers within the Western Balkans as a precondition in entering fully the European market, but not only, also to enter the global markets easier. To be very sincere, we have some problems in the adoption of the decisions and the recognition of all the issues that we all agree. And those are technical problems mainly, and bilateral problems, especially within the countries that are part of CEFTA, which we think that they have to be overcome or solved as soon as possible in order to be easier to function as one and to attract those investments, but also to increase the trade exchange between our countries. We are at the moment before having the Berlin process, where we have agreed already most of the decisions that have to be undertaken, but we have to consider the fact that all the countries should be treated the same, equally, and therefore based on that premises to adopt these decisions within the CEFTA Secretariat, so that we can look forward to the future and not go back what has happened in the past. As North Macedonia, we are doing quite well also with the other neighbors, especially in the energy sector. Previously, I have mentioned that next week, we are going to sign the agreement when it comes to the interconnector of the natural gas, the supply of natural gas in North Macedonia, which in a way will become a transit country to our northern neighbors, but that will be a great opportunity in order to diversify the supply of natural gas, and not only the diversification, but has to do with the stability and security of supply of energy resources, having in mind that at the moment, as North Macedonia, we are supplying supplied only by one entry, which is with the Republic of Bulgaria, and with one company which is selling in global levels natural gas. That would be not great only for our country, but would be great for the region, especially for Kosovo, Montenegro, Bosnia, and south of Serbia. We have adopted the energy strategy within our country when it comes to the transition of the energy market overall, and we have decided as a government in order to accept the green scenario of that strategy, which is in fully accordance with the EU legislation, which is in fully accordance with the trends at the moment which are implemented throughout the globe. And at the end, having in mind that I already have the yellow card, I have to show also my gratitude to our friends which are helping us to adopt faster the smart specialization strategy, which would give a greater boost to our economy in identifying the sectors where we have to work more in order to become more competitive in those sectors and to use a comparative advantage when it comes to the cooperation within the Western Balkan countries, but not only within the region, but also, as mentioned earlier, in European level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Krešnik Bekteshi, and you gave some points for the next intervention, and I welcome Emir Čikić. Over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, boss, for this year. I'm speaking on behalf of the CEFTA Secretariat here, where North Macedonia and Mr. Bekteshi is sharing the agreement during this year. Very hard year concerning the promises that we made in Sofia, all of us, in order to achieve the deliverables on the that were promised by our parties to the Berlin summit that's going to happen Monday. So basically, this is one of the possibilities and the floors where we should urge all of the parties. That's the first thing. I'm using half a minute for that before saying even thank you for the organizers, to urge the parties to try to find a consensus until Monday on the issues that are still open. I hope that in public here we have some of the representatives, and basically that they will listen to the call and try to find the compromises and the solutions on the issues that are still open. I hear that there is a lot of ICT people around me here, so basically I will start with what we were doing in relation to ICT to say how we are good on that. And basically there is one achievement which we made during the last year during the pandemics, and this is the so-called green lanes. Probably they were mentioned on the previous session, but I want to emphasize in there the necessity of the use of the information technologies that enable us to achieve this goal in only a month after the start of the pandemic, and to basically reduce the waiting times at the BCP CCPs within the Western Balkans to today's 75 minutes maximum waiting time at the borders, while at the borders with the European Union, we have, the trucks are waiting from 3 hours to 24 hours, the maximum data. And as we know, the European Union is 70% of our market, and 70% of our exports are going to the EU. What we are trying to achieve, all what Mr. Bekteshi said, and thank you for saving him a minute, we are trying to expand those benefits to the regional level. We are trying to not only to attract the foreign investors as the North Macedonia or as Serbia or as Bosnia, but we are trying to make a level playing field and to attract the foreign investors to CEFTA. In order to do this, we are trying to provide the benefits, and this is something which is stated clearly in the common regional market document last year, that we're going to go to try to provide the benefits to all of the CEFTA parties. The producers for one CEFTA party would have the same situation in all of the CEFTA parties as with his own documents that he's receiving in his own party. So basically, if you have a certificate, we are just now negotiating on professional qualification. If you have a professional qualification issued by an institution of North Macedonia, our goal is that this is recognized in all of the 7 CEFTA parties. And this is the first step, because the aim with the Economic and Investment Plan of the European Union, the aim is to expand those benefits to the European Union bits and bits, following the commitments of the EU that they will accept that we enter slowly the single market if we are fulfilling the conditions of the EU. Another important thing to say is that all that we are doing is basically done on the basis of EU legislation. So all the agreements that we are making on the regional level are based on the EU acquis and fully compliant with the EU acquis, of course with excluding the minorities and minor issues that cannot be settled until the accession to the full accession to the EU. And I hope that this is the way where we will go. Related to the main achievements, those green lanes that enabled were done through the SEED system, where the 7 customs administrations are exchanging pre-arrival information, full pre-arrival information within the Western Balkans. And those informations are used in order to manage the risk management faster and getting the goods faster through the border crossings within the region. The aim that we have is to start up the exchange of the information with the European Union that would facilitate the exports of our products to the EU in order to be liable and to have the capacities to fulfill the contractual obligations with the potential buyers in the EU, in view that it's not possible to be just on time if you have to wait 12 hours at the border and to supply to your goods. I will save you 25 seconds. Thank you very much for the organizers. It's one of the first conferences that is happening live. And this is something which is very impressive to be organized. And congratulations for that. And I would stop here.
Thank you very much. Also thanking for giving already the trigger for the next presentation. You talked about digital, so Aneta Pesheva, the floor is yours.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to participate on this significant forum. Second, I want to mention, and I'm honored that I'm here with all men, and the things on Balkan countries are going in the right way. Sorry, this was not in my... For almost 25 years, countries of Western Balkans were working on their divorce. Now it's time how to make engagement again. That is the destiny of the Balkan countries, without a reason to live in the past instead of living in the future. But nowadays, instead of the wars that divide us in the past, there is something above all politics. That is the ICT industry. Communications that are available to everyone. The strongest weapon to unite the region is to establish information and communication infrastructure. In my opinion, digitalization and telecommunication connectivity of the whole region is the most important thing. The fact is that the Western Balkan countries are doing well in this field. They are growing much faster than political decisions. The growth and development of ICT sector in all countries of the Western Balkans is huge. Our companies, through new forms of communication, and they export without borders and administration procedures. I can tell you that the latest data on the ICT industry in Northern Macedonia is unbelievable. According to the latest official data for the year 2020, the ICT sector in North Macedonia generated total revenue of almost 1 billion euros, resulting in growth of 12 compared to 2019. Almost 200 new companies in 2020 are established. So now we have 2,400 companies working in the ICT sector. The number of employees is another indicator that is growing, and it's now counting 17,000 employees in our industry, reaching 8% of 1,200 new employees only in 2020. Compare from the previous year. The annual salary of the computer programming is 2.5 times bigger than the national average. It has also grown in 2020, reaching 1,700 gross for engineer. The ICT industry also marked a 10% growth rate in export, counting 240 million euros by our domestic companies. Most of the companies are working export. More than 85% from our ICT companies are doing work for foreign countries. MASIT wants to contribute to support digitalization of public institutions and government organizations to improve all aspects of living in the country. We believe that our country will become a more attractive living place by implementing digitalization, reducing migration and brain drain, and better connectivity with the region and the world. That is why nowadays we propose to the Assembly of the country to establish a special commission for digitalization, including all political parties, to reach political consensus, including experts from the private sector. We believe that rising of digitalization as a strategic priority of the country above the government and the politics will ensure a big success. Regional collaboration, MASIT as ICT chamber and representative for the ICT sector in North Macedonia is very well connected with other similar organizations from the region. We are members of 3B ICT network, which unites ICT private sector organizations from the Baltic area, and Black Sea. MASIT is also a part of WITSA, the World IT Service Alliance, where other countries from the region are also members. My conclusion is that only with fast-growing digitalization we can integrate the region in all economy fields. But of course, there should be goodwill from the political factors that should adopt unified tax regulation and policies in all countries for the ICT sector so that the progress will go smoothly. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving this push to the...
So I wrote this because I can talk till I can talk till tomorrow for the digitalization, but I have to.
Very good.
To be in 4 minutes.
Perfect. Digitalization help you to stick within the time. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much for these words on a key sector. We now come to a contribution from the academic side, and it's a pleasure to welcome Marian Petrescu.
Thank you very much.
Marian.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation to participate on this high-level event and hear interesting views about the region, first of all. When I'll make a bit of a reflection related to the labor markets and how this relates to immigration, which are thoughts that were already present in the discourse in the first session. So if we look on the map in the background, we see actually the yellow region, which is the Western Balkan, and the map signifies that it is somehow unified. However, when we speak about the labor market, actually we speak in plural labor markets, because these are not yet integrated, at least not at the level in which we want to see the labor markets integrated. And this is very much important to happen, especially before these countries join the EU. However, some initiatives have helped for unification, at least of policies, labor market policies in the region. And I could mention here some efforts related to the mutual recognition of the diplomas in higher education, which is a good sign that we are heading somehow towards the goal that we want to achieve. However, beyond this, labor markets in the Western Balkans are still facing similar phenomena. And I would mention, I would speak about an alternative, let me say, view about the labor markets. So based on what we see in data and based on my own research, I could say that labor markets in general were doing good before the pandemic. And during the pandemic, we didn't see large increases in employment. Maybe we saw a kind of deactivation of people, but this is expected to be rebalanced by the end of the year. However, what we had before the pandemic will reappear by the end of the year, or is already reappearing in terms of a pressure. So let me say this way: the labor markets are somehow divided in two layers. We have the first layer, whereby we have skills which are present in the Western Balkan countries, and these are matched with appropriate jobs. When I talk about skills, I not necessarily put equal sign with the diploma. Let me say a note about this, and I will make it further clear later on. These people, however, despite they have decent jobs here in the Western Balkans, they still have some propensity to emigrate. Why? Because they are attracted by higher salaries, of course, at destination, but also because they are not satisfied with the local conditions, not necessarily with their wages and with their jobs, but local conditions in terms of, let's say, rule of law, institutional order, the health system, the educational system, how we deal with the environment, etc., etc. And this fuels the discussion about the brain drain, which is a very, very valid discussion in the Western Balkans. However, it is too much vocal in the society, in the societies of the Western Balkans. What I want to say, that if we look at the emigration closer, we would see that actually we are missing not only a brain, but we are also missing people. Why? Because the labor market then has, I would say, a second layer. And the second layer is the big problem. And this is where there is a gap between the diploma, which was obtained at university, and the skill which is possessed. And this is the huge problem. These are usually the people who emigrate and go abroad, and they work at lower jobs than what would have been prescribed by their diploma. Or, the worst, they are pressing to enter, they're making a queue for the public administration. And this is the problem we have. Then we undermine the capacity of the public administration to deliver reforms. And we are stuck in a vicious cycle. But in general, the two layers of the labor market are fueling, both of them are fueling the emigration, but for different reasons. The first is the brain drain, which is too vocal, which is a problem, but it is not the only problem. We are losing people from the Western Balkan, of course, mainly in the EU countries. At the regional level, what could be done beyond this, I believe a step further in the coordination of the labor market policies. They are, I would say, to a certain extent harmonized through the work of the international organizations, but I think we need further efforts between the governments to harmonize. That is, I would say, the short-run solution. When I say labor market policies, maybe I mainly refer to active labor market policies, whereby we need to create some skills in the very short run, or reskill people, so give additional or other qualifications so that they match what is required on the labor market, and somehow to curb the emigration, which is not easy. But of course, the long-run solution is investment in education. There is no replacement for quality investment in education, and this is what the governments need to really focus immediately. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very interesting analysis, labor market and migration. After this more academic intervention, now we come to a practitioner. Johannes Heidecker, the floor is yours.
Weiter, danke. Practical problem solved. Zdravo. Pershendetje. Welcome to the road to a better region. What is at stake in numbers? How do we increase salaries times 20 in the next 20 years? How to add value in products for wine? How do we not sell for 40 cents per liter in bulk, but for 8 euros per liter in bottles? How do we get there? The answer is not a dictatorial, old-fashioned plan. Minister Bazarik once said, the worst thing a government can do is to tell the people how to plant their garden. One answer is smart specialization. That is a policy of the North Macedonian government, of all the governments, Kosovo, Bosnia-Herzegovina in the region, and also of the EU. It is partly supported by the EU. It's a process. And this process brings together businesses, science, and the government together to discover where to go and how to get there. To stay in our garden, to find out what grows well in this garden, what training do the gardener need, which fertilizer works, and what tools do you need. And, very important, to create a legislative framework to stop the weeds from suffocating everything. Take the sector, food, Ivar. 100,000 people in North Macedonia at least know how to make Ivar. That's not the problem. Ivar sells in the West for 32 euros a kilo. But to get there, we need recyclable packaging. We need labels for hard discount. Happy Canada Day, logistics to Canada for Ivar. And we need digital recipes in Finnish language because they don't know what to do with it. And so I invite all of you, the businesses, the science, and the government to participate in this discovery process for smart specializations. When we establish our garden well, the birds and the insects will come and dust the plants. Our youth will stay here. They will do IT. And sorry, Mr. Palmer, they will go to Chicago for vacation and to learn and not to work there in McDonald's.
That is my goal.
I mentioned smart foods, which concerns specifically the people who are not living in the big cities. There will be sections for industry, another for IT, 1,700 euros, yeah. At flat tax, that's more money, yeah, than 45% progressive on 300. I personally encourage to include tourism for several reasons. First, tourism concerns keeping our country neat and clean in the green environment, not only for the tourists, by the way. Tourism brings together from people from all over the world to meet and to build bridges, and this is what this conference is about. And tourism creates a lot of employment. Every one of us has met today the cooks, the waiters, the receptionists, and by the way, all this great stuff working here, and specifically the translators in their cabins who are working very, very hard for us. And this is also part of it. Fala lepo, fala minderit, thank you. And my applause goes to all the staff who cleaned the road for us today on the way to a better future.
Thank you, Johannes, for this original piece on smart specialization. So now it's a pleasure to welcome Besart Kadia.
Exactly. Thank
you. You go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I'm a recently Deputy Minister of Economy in Albania, and I'm an economist by training. I read my PhD on economics, and one of the things Solo used to say is once you start thinking about economic growth, it's hard to think about something else. And I'm still not able to give an answer or to contribute to this highly intelligent room and decision makers on what is the best approach. I'd like to tell you a personal story just to show you how the region has moved. Back in 1997, when I was 13 or 14, my father sent us to a summer camp in Macedonia, and at the time I thought Macedonia was the center of Europe. You had cold water and warm water in the taps. The restaurants were everywhere. And Tirana at the time was a miserable place, and GDP per capita was, I think, around $700, while in Macedonia was 1,900. Things have moved since then. Tirana has become a better place. Freedom of movement and capital movement have made possible that we have now a common GDP per capita. Saying that, I just met a friend who used to be in Tirana back in 1999, and he wasn't very happy in why the hotels in Tirana have improved so much, because now they are clean. And his reasoning was this, that back in 1991, when I visited the country, the hotel was a bit shabby. There were insects everywhere, and I heard a knock on my door. It was a female colleague of mine who couldn't stay in her room. So he had the best 10 days of his life. But that's not a reason why we should stop progress. What we heard from the pandemic and what we saw from the pandemic is that usually countries or governments, when they are in panic, they try to see and to look only for their own welfare, their citizens' welfare. And this is why, at the same time, we learned from the pandemic that we need to have a common understanding of the challenges that lie ahead for the future. And the common questions that people started thinking about at the time was, will I have my wage, or will I have my job after the pandemic? And after that, now we are in the same position that we need to think about how we can move in a clear regional approach for a common understanding of the challenges that lie ahead. As the Henry Ford, the entrepreneur, used to say, is that if everyone is moving forward together, then success takes care of itself. And we have seen the progress that if we have regional common markets and we remove barriers to trade and we try to have capital moving around without barriers, that is positive. And according to the World Bank, if the regional economic integration can generate more than 6.7% in case we have EU level kind of integration. So this is a huge potential that we always need to be aware as policymakers for the future. No doubt that the business community is very attentive towards us, how we deliver on what we have engaged ourselves and at what speed our countries are moving forward in initiating reforms that will facilitate the creation of the common regional market and reducing barriers to trade. I'll just try to give you a few good things that we think is, from our perspective in Albania, that are positive. The good work that CEFTA Secretariat has done in cooperation with Italian Customs Agency is currently discussing the possibility of starting a pilot project on green corridors extension between Albanian Port of Durrës, Italian Ancona Port, Bari and Bar Montenegro. Also, good progress is done on our joint work to removing work permits for enhancing temporary movement in the region in order to increase the business opportunities among our economies. As you mentioned earlier, tourism is also a core economic development. New policies and strong cooperation is needed in order to help this sector to recapture the losses of COVID and orient towards sustainable development. And work has started on the adoption of the decision of the Joint Committee on the Mutual Recognition of Professional Qualifications, starting with the pilot profession of civil engineers. So these are all good steps, and we hope that in the future, moving around in the region will be just a matter. The only barrier will be language, which is something that we can work on. And as Mark Twain said, I'm writing you a long letter because I don't have time to write you a short one. So I think I'm on time. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Okay, we come now to the last but not least speaker. It's actually a presentation of an economic study, and we will have some slides here. I will make the place for the presenter, and it's a pleasure to have Ivana Vučková here with us for presenting your study.
Thank you, Walter. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity and for the invitation that I present the study here, the big picture of the Friedrich Ebert Foundation, where I was also one of the co-authors. It is not by chance, and this was already mentioned today, that we started the Prespa Forum about building bridges with the economic and business session, as it was not by chance that the Friedrich Ebert Foundation spent a year long to work with various experts, economists, sociologists, engineers, both former and current politicians, younger, energetic, and more experienced ones in order to define the big picture of the Macedonian economy in the medium and the long term. I'm not here today, and you may guess where this takes. And please, I would like to ask you for the next slide and the next one. It is high time for our economy, for our society. Is it high time for our region to really address the key matters that will bring economic and social prosperity in the long run? And for that, the experts group has created various key policy recommendations, which I'm not here today to present all, not because I don't want, there's simply not enough time, but I would like to inspire you to also take a look at the big picture and to read it, because it's available in 3 languages. You can see it over there on the left side, together with the 10 key points. But among the policy recommendations, which I would like to present here, is the matter that we need to move from a small open economy that depends on remittances, foreign direct investment, capital owned from foreign banks. We need to move to an internationally integrated economy. And to do so, the big picture suggests an export-led growth strategy. Because an export-led growth strategy is appropriate because we have small markets, small domestic market, we have limited natural resources, and we have low level of development. But with this export-led growth strategy, we can gradually lift and transform our economy into an internationally integrated one. This requires, however, serious reforms in the structure of the export of both goods and services. And we need really to elevate the one that provide larger component of domestic added value. Because, for instance, now we have most of our GDP created from the primarily industry and agriculture, where products go mostly for the domestic market. And for this, we need to identify the competitive advantages of the Macedonian economy, or to create them based on high-quality labor, technological advancement, and innovation. And I will not go further into it because Mr. Heidecker already explained it very well with the smart specialization. This would answer, however, hopefully to the question of this conference, how to get to a better connected and more integrated region, because this will elevate the growth of productivity, increase of wages, and improve the living conditions. The growth-led strategy will enable our companies to enter the regional and global value chains, and also the value chains of the foreign direct investment that are located here in our countries, in our regions. We already spoke about all the opportunities for nearshoring and reshoring coming from the EU. But for that, we really need a coordinated tax policy instead of bottom to the race. And the regional joint market should not be forgotten as well, because this study shows that we are as competitive or even more competitive to the regional market than we are on the EU market. And this doesn't mean that we need to refocus from the EU market. We have to stay there. We have to improve further to be there. But we also have to realize that there is a market right behind the border, and the border, it's just a border, should not be a burden. More complementary instead of more competitive economy was already mentioned. 2 key preconditions for that to happen are investment in education and science. And we need education and science for 21st century that will enable highly skilled workforce, but here in the country, and that is compatible to the trends of the 21st century and the demand on the markets we see today. We also need, however, uplifting capacities of institutions. And the World Economic Forum, as well as this study, suggests both that strengthening the capacity of institutions will be one of the preconditions for further economic growth and development of our country. We need to make improvements on all levels, and this was already mentioned. And last but not least, we need to also invest in better social protection for a better society. We need better environmental protection because we already talked about the European Green Deal, the Green Agenda for the Western Balkans, and on the way of decarbonizing our economies and on our way to facing, resolving climate change, we should not forget the issues of inequality, poverty, and other problems that we face as a region, because only then we can make it to a joint future, to a more connected and more integrated region. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I hope you'll be interested to further read the study. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ivana. Very good presentation. So, this means we have now finalized the round in the panel, and thanks again to all the speakers. And now we can turn to some interaction again. And again, I would start with the partners of this forum. This time it's the gold and the silver partners, and thanks a lot, and we are very grateful for your support to this Prespa Forum dialogue. Is there anyone first from the partners who wants to intervene? I'm not pushing you, so thanks a lot for your support. I think let's now open the discussion a bit wider, and let's benefit from the fact that we have here not only the speakers on the podium, but also the speakers that we had in the first part. Maybe is there some interaction at the level of the panel, so points that you want to contradict, where you don't agree, or where you want to complement, push a bit further. So who wants to go ahead? Yeah, break the ice, Fatimir.
Well, it's not actually to respond, but maybe challenge some of the things that were said in the first and the second panel. And I think that Ms. Vučková actually, with her presentation on the study, somehow summarized where we should aim. And there were several things said. So obviously we know where we stand. And it's obviously the momentum to go to the next level. And I will take the opportunity of saying what we do as a country, and I think that from both national and domestic, national and regional perspective. Taking and being aware of the causes or where the situation is, actually we have as Mr. Bekteshi said, we have started with the smart specialization because we do think that that's crucial. But that's not crucial because European Union is asking to have a smart specialization. That's crucial about the economy, about the country. But we move ahead with the National Development Plan because the smart specialization is just a bit of the National Development Plan. And actually we just started drafting the 20-year National Development Plan, which will challenge and foresee how do we tackle all the main problems that we are facing for the moment. And I heard Mr. Petrescu saying, talking on brain drain, and previously the rector of one of the universities said that the human capital is one of the big issues in our region, and I fully agree. But how you foster that the human capital have the capacities and capabilities to deal with the future challenges? Probably by investing in education. And actually, we have some time to face the reality. And I usually say like that. If we go and see where we stand in the educational, in compared to the competition, and the competition is the global competition, unfortunately, our universities in the region stand among the top lowest universities or education centers. And actually, we have to, all of us, work and face that challenge. It's not when I talk on competition and instead of that being competitive, meaning that being good in the region, being good in the global market, not being good in Skopje. Either in Skopje produced is good for us maybe, but it might not be good for Germans, because they would probably like another flavor to be put it, because that's the way how they are used to eat. That's where I say that we do have quite a lot of challenges, and we have to commonly, all together, try to grab this opportunity, because the post-COVID rehabilitation and revitalization is crucial for all region. It's crucial for each country, but it's crucial for region. Either we get it and we use the opportunity, or after 10 years we will say we missed another opportunity. And unfortunately, as I said previously, in the last 30 years we have lost quite a lot of opportunity. And this is where we stand for the moment. Probably till yesterday, we were looking, each of us, with different perspective, different views, why he is red and why he is blue, and that therefore we will not cooperate. And I think that not since today, but since yesterday, we have to overcome that and go to the next level. And the next level is cooperation, collaboration, and cutting all the possible burdens that are in front of us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Reactions? Yeah.
Not reaction, just edit.
Yeah. Okay. Compliments.
Compliments. Maybe compliment. Yeah. Thanks. Actually, try to add on actually what was during this the second part of the session, and then we also talked earlier. In terms of goals, where we want to be, what we want to achieve, the resources, and the way how we can, the knowledge, know-how, how can we reach there. And actually, these were the specialization, the National Development Plan. There are a lot of strategies in the country. And sometimes we are inflated of many strategies. Mm-hmm. We have to move from strategizing to make things work. So this is also what we face as a challenge. Now, the other thing that I would like to put, sorry for taking the time putting on my portfolio about the financing of the budget, but it is also essential in these challenging times when we are facing challenges which are bigger than our home, and we are exposed to shocks which are external, that comes without our contribution at all. And on the other side, we are already facing the budget deficits high, and also the very little fiscal space to have these ambitious plans of growth, of specialization, and all these kind of things. And infrastructure, we talk about money. So what is also here necessary, the know-how and the availability and the approach, how can we get to these international financial sources, but also new instruments, innovative instruments of financing this growth. The limitations that we have, and I can say freely about the countries in the region in terms of their macroeconomic figures and the budget position and fiscal position, we have ambitious plans on growth. We know that we have to be more productive, more competitive, needs more financing, but on the other side, we have these fiscal consolidation rules, fiscal rules. Actually, the blending and leveraging from private funds as well. Partnership. The word that I will and that I want to leave this room with is with the word partnership, togetherness. Partnership. When you talk about when I mentioned Europe earlier, I was thinking of the partnership. When I mentioned about the neighborhood, we mean about partnership. When we talk about business, community, academia, policymakers, again, partnership. Unless we consider ourselves as a part of a joint solution, we will face always these challenges of showing results. So we have this, we are working together on this growth accelerating plan, financing plan, which assumes ambitious plan on growth, putting everything together, and also mobilizing private capital as well on this project. So to put this forward, I would also say that if we want to all these kind of things, what has been in the past in long-term goal, we used to call it accelerated, sustainable, inclusive growth. Now, as the time is coming, we are modernizing our language, more or less the same challenges, and now we call them smart, we call them green, and we call them shared prosperity. So still the main challenges remain there. And of course, the new technology development and the others, we will accommodate all these strategies in order to bring this response. But so partnership, cooperation, collaboration, and we have the proof from the response to COVID, both medical, political, economic, all the measures that we got otherwise, and we saw where we had the weaknesses, and we saw how we worked it successfully. So in this context, from this panel, in terms of the economic cooperation and serving this bigger goal of this conference, I would want to say that the message of cooperation can be one of others that will come out from this conference, and investing on this cooperation. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I think these were two very comprehensive kind of concluding remarks. No, you are absolutely right. You are absolutely right, because we have somebody to do this. So, this is, as I said, Anthony Peshev. So you are going to have to do something tomorrow. Yeah. I leave you everything. Don't use the yellow card. And
I'm going to be very short.
Absolutely. And you will have your presentation, the official presentation tomorrow, and you will present us a kind of a draft.
Yeah, of course. It is very difficult to sign the draft in such a short time. Actually, we heard a lot of things today. What is very important that most of the speakers were speaking like they are driving on the same train or driving on the same boat. It is obvious that boat is not moving through very calm sea. But it's true that we started to speak almost with the same language. Actually, we discussed and opened issues which are very similar to all of the countries. The questions which are opened in the area started to be smaller and smaller, and now we're discussing about the cooperative attitude in all countries. It was mentioned all of the main aspects on this sense. from Mr. Palmer, we heard that the United States is still very much focused on the area. We are going to have a full support in our European and Atlantic integrations of the countries which are almost in the final phase. I hope that Europe integration is going to come much faster than we are afraid that it's going to be, because this is the aspiration of all of the countries in the area. What was very important also to mention one of the global and mutual attributes we might use. It was mentioned that our young people, that diaspora, young diaspora, which is capable of bringing new ideas, are potentials which we have to count. We discussed about the necessity of the global labor market, that we have to have a unified system for education. We discussed about the necessity of dropping down the barriers on the borders to open the market as a unified market. And I think that all of the countries in the area are starting to go in this direction very openly, and it is nice to hear that most of the speakers today express the same willing. We have also very practical examples of the institutions which are already cooperating and producing positive results. We mentioned the chamber type of organization which is covering this as an umbrella in the area. We show that economical figures in the area are growing. It is not as fast as we would like to be, but it's still significant. And we are talking about pre- and post-COVID era, in which now we are in the situation to find out that the region is not so bad. Even for the foreigners looking us from aside, it is obvious that areas started to be attractive for the foreign direct investments, which are growing, and we have to do our best to emphasize the importance that the foreigners should feel comfortable and productive here in this area. I mean, all of the countries in the area are prepared to welcome all of the foreign investors, and it's going to be very nice if the law, the rule of law, the fight against corruption are going to be main messages we are going to give to the foreigners. And it was mentioned that if we are expecting the real foreign direct investment, we have to do a little bit homework here to prepare ourselves for these challenges, which are strongly relate to our activities. And thank God that we are now in this era in which there will be video footage of this conference. So my presentation is going to be more deep with the emphasizing of the important things, but I think that it is going to be very nice, and I'm very glad that I was participant of this panel, which is showing that really economy started to be important part of the life of these countries. Thank you very much, and see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It shows the big scope, but a lot of common intentions, common will. And the big challenge is to make it happen. As many said, implementation is very important, and the way there is cooperation, partnership, and togetherness. So, I'm coming now to my end as a moderator, so I want first of all also to thank the interpreters and all the technical staff that made this possible so that we could meet here. Of course, a big thank you to the keynote speaker. Thanks, this was kicking off and setting the scene very importantly. So thanks to all the speakers from the first and the second part. And of course, thanks the audience for participating, and in particular those that took the floor. So I just want to wish you a continued exciting participation. So I hope you enjoyed this session. So I wish you to enjoy the company of being together in person here. And I hope we all will get inspired and get new energy to work for a prosperous and sustainable future of this great region which belongs to Europe. Thank you very much. And enjoy. Thank you.